guys, it is April 1st and Abby Jimenez has a new book out. That's what I was reading in the clip earlier. It's already such a good time. You already get to see our main two characters interacting, Xavier and Samantha, and I am excited to see what she does with this one. Guys, the banter is bantering. Okay, I'll read you a clip. When I got outside, Dr. Rush was standing there looking very serious and holding a small succulent. Hi. Hello? Is that for me? I wanted to bring you flowers, but you said you're going out of town. Aw, so you brought me something that can survive long bouts of absence and neglect instead. That's really thoughtful. Also completely appropriate for my guarding ability. The corner of his lips twitched. There's just something about reading a book from one of your favorite authors. A new book. Love it. Guys. Abby Jimenez does a really good job of making sure the trigger warnings are in the beginning of the book before you start the reading, basically. But there's a quote in here, and they're basically talking about their upbringing with their parents, and they do mention that there was abuse. This is the quote. I think that's why my emotions don't get away from me. Why? Because when I showed how I felt, that's how they knew how to hurt me. Oh my gosh. It just I don't know, it hits your heart. I feel like, I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but can you imagine, especially in his position, you're growing up, these are the people that you've known your whole life, they're supposed to care about you, and you being your authentic, vulnerable, true self as anyone should feel in their home. And then them using that to manipulate you is just that's heartbreaking. Because I definitely understand that. Distinctly remember my experience, basically, them stating, I know you so well. And, using that as, a tool or a weapon to, hurt you, essentially. And this was, towards the tail end, right before I left the relationship. But the moment when you, understand that somebody is so cruel or doesn't have, your best interest at heart is just, a shattering moment. Oh my gosh. I love you, Echo. Guys. Oh my gosh. Okay. This book started off differently than I anticipated because it's whoa, we're really jumping into this pretty quickly. I get to page 70. If you don't want to know, this would be a spoiler. But if you're reading this with me and you've gotten to page 70, then you know what she says. And I'm just what is gonna happen? We have this much more. What? You forget me. enjoy your terrifying view. So one of the hardships in this book is about Samantha's mom. She has dementia. And I'm going to read the quote. She was a terrible cook, really, really bad. But considering everything else she was good at, it was probably for the best. She would have been too powerful. He smiled. I wish you could have met her, I said, almost to myself. I'd like to. I felt my smile fade. Even if you do, you never will. I have worked so much with the geriatric population and specifically individuals with dementia, especially my last clinical rotation for school. And it is like one of the most brutal diseases to see because there's such like an active grief while the person's still alive because they lose so much of their memory and who they are, and it almost seems like it changes personality traits because of the way it takes over. And so I just like really feel for her, and I foresee some tears coming from me because I've like seen it so closely at hand so many times already. Guys, I finished Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez last night. And oh my gosh, it was like a crazy ride. I feel like it's so emotional and it's so different than I think a lot of other romance books that you read because it's taking on like a very different type of relationship and like showing a lot of the actualities, I guess, when it basically like if you don't want to get spoiled, you can definitely click off if you don't want to know anything. But essentially our characters Samantha and Xavier, they want to be together more than anything, and they can very much feel how strong of a connection they have, and they feel really lucky to have found each other, but their certain circumstances have posed a lot of barriers for them to actually be together, like in close proximity basically. So they are doing long distance, and you can just see the toll that it takes on each of them, despite, and I guess like addition to everything else that they're already like facing in their own lives, like apart from their relationship. And so it's really interesting to read about, and it's also like, as a reader, I felt so much like pulled back and forth because I believed the love story and like the yearning, the care for each other, and like having done long distance, I can also like empathize with what they're going through. But then at the same time, like, I believe they should be together, but I don't know how they're gonna make it work, essentially because of like what was going on. And so you're just like, you have the same thoughts basically that they have of like, do you break up because of these circumstances, because there's not like an end date in sight. And it was kind of cool to see a romance story written about that, because you really didn't know what the author was going to do and like how she was going to really manage it all. But yeah, I think my biggest thing, I was trying to figure out the rating right for it, and I love her other books more, and I felt like this one, because of like what was going on and that like internal dialogue that each of the characters must have because they are in this situation that affects them on like a daily basis, it gets a little redundant and a little like you felt like you were going through the cycle of the same types of conversations over and over and over again, which is how it is. But I think like for that reason, it just didn't hit as much as like other stories. Also because of like, I think past experience and things like that for myself. Maybe it's just like not the novel that I like most relate to as far as like Abby Jimenez's books, but I did think it was still really good. And there were so many quotes. I wrote so many quotes that I didn't even take film clips for them, and I will probably just read you one and then that'll be it, because there's like, I have a list of like 20 here, and I'm like, I don't want to I don't want to spoil the book for you guys at all, because it is such a joy to read it yourself. But there is a really wonderful part that happened at the end. It's definitely what pushed it for a 4-star for me, because I was just like because obviously I told you guys that I've like experienced so many individuals with dementia, and then like having this little scene I think was so lovely. So spoiler, if you haven't read it and you don't want to see any further, I totally understand. But if you have read it and you just want to remember this quote and gush with me, then please stay. So the setup is, it's the end of the book, and basically Samantha finds out that Xavier is moving to California, and he has left everything behind in Minnesota, his practice, all of that. But he does it as like a surprise, so he just had her go to the gazebo outside with her mom, because she was caretaking for her mom, and then she's listening to a playlist, so she's not paying attention necessarily to like auditory of things happening, so he's able to show up behind her, tap her on the shoulder. She realizes his dog's there, like, wait, what's going on? Basically they talk about like, wait, this is a strange way of you to like ask me to marry you, and then he's like, will you? And she says yes, of course. Her mom gets to actually witness all of this happening, and then we have this quote kind of come in. Mom was standing in the door of the gazebo watching us. She was beaming from ear to ear. She knew something ingrained that told her she was seeing true love, her heart remembering even though her brain had forgotten. She didn't know who I was or who he was, but she still knew what love was. Maybe that's the last thing we forget, or we never forget it at all. Not really. We lose the words to say it, we lose the ability to show it, but we never lose the ability to feel it or recognize it when we see it. Love is the brightest color in a gray world. Oh my gosh, just like maybe my favorite quote from the whole book. But yes, if you are thinking about reading it, and if you want to like bump it up on your TBR, I definitely understand. I would recommend it. It was super quick read. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. I love the banter. I love the inclusion of heavy topics, and I think she does extensive research to be able to include the details that she does, if it's like the characters' jobs or what they're facing or things like that. I feel like Abby really goes the extra mile to do so, because I felt like for the most part, from my perspective of like working in healthcare, everything seemed pretty spot on, more or less. And I really appreciate that, because I mean, when I do read books, I think I have mentioned, like, I love seeing different walks of life and like what people go through and what it's like if I've never experienced it, or if I have, then maybe gaining another kind of knowledge or perspective about it really is why I love to read, right? But yeah, I hope you guys are having a great day, and if you have read this book, I want to know your thoughts. And if you have a favorite book from Abby Jimenez, do leave it down below and let me know. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.